If you have a baby and you're thinking about introducing solid foods, or you've already started, but you have questions or you're wondering what's the best approach, stick around. This episode's for you. Welcome back to the Airplane Spoon podcast, real stories and real questions about feeding children. I'm Sarina Murrell, feeding therapist and director of the Airplane Spoon. And today we're tackling a question that I see very often with a lot of families of young babies who are ready to start introducing solids. And so today's question is, what method should I use to introduce solid foods to my baby? There's baby-led weaning, purees, some kind of combination. There's all these things out there. And if you felt pressure to pick a side or guilt because you don't do it the way that your friend or your sister or on social media shows you the way you should be doing it, this episode is for you. There is no single right answer here, but there is a right answer for you and your family. And today, I want to help you find it. So, when people talk about starting solids or to start to eat real foods, what we talk about solids, it doesn't have to be solid hard, it could be pureed soft, but it usually means introducing foods when a baby is then eating primarily milk or formula. There's usually two opposite ends of the spectrum. So if we think about it, there's either one end, which is the baby is deciding everything. The baby is putting the food in their mouth. The baby is deciding kind of how much or if or what to eat. And the opposite end would be the adult is deciding everything. So the adult is deciding the food. The adult is putting the food in the baby's mouth. The adult is deciding kind of how much or at what rate. Obviously, the adult cannot decide kind of how to make the child swallow or to eat. But these are the opposite ends of of this spectrum of feeding. So baby feeding themselves or adult feeding baby. And sometimes these can feel like kind of a push and a pull or a tug of war. And you're feeling like, oh, I'm supposed to do this, but then I need to do this today and I might feel bad about it. And I'm doing this and I know I'm supposed to come over here. What am I supposed to do? And here's what's important. These two approaches exist because they serve different purposes. Baby-led feeding, there's a program, baby-led weaning, BLW. This comes out of the UK. Weaning is what they call starting to eat solid foods. They're weaning off of milk or the bottle or breast. Uh, but baby-led weaning is a program, and it's essentially the baby is the decider. The baby is the driver in their eating process. And so that looks very different. And its purpose is around helping a child to develop their self regulation, their oral motor skills practice, controlling how much goes in their mouth, getting practice with their fine motor, whether that's their little fingers or holding utensils, and getting the sensory experience around the texture, temperature, size, shape, feeling, everything. And the purpose of that is for the child's growth and development in their feeding skills. Whereas more of a adult-led approach, where it's more around spoon feeding usually, has the purpose of typically volume or consumption. So it's about how to get food into the child and how to get more food in. And so the caregiver could know what is being eaten and have more maybe peace of mind of meals or that their child is getting enough food. And so understanding the purposes of these driving development and self-learning and mouth skills versus driving nutrition and volume and more of like physical growth, both of those things are okay. Both of those things are good and important. So it doesn't need to be an either or. Neither the American Academy of Pediatrics nor the World Health Organization officially endorses one approach over another. So, to think about that, these health organizations, medical associations that are dedicated to raising healthy children are not favoring one over the other because it could be both, or we need to understand what fits best for your family. The American Academy of Pediatrics' most recent clinical guidance on complementary feeding is explicit that there isn't enough evidence to recommend baby led weaning over spoon feeding or vice versa. They frame the two as complementary tools, not competing philosophies. So, if their two ends of the spectrum are just tools, not which team are you on, then my next question is, could you combine them? Absolutely. And in my clinical experience and supporting many families that are starting to introduce foods to their baby, people naturally often kind of land somewhere in the middle without even planning to. And it's supportive in all of these different ways. And ultimately, it's supportive for that child and those parents or caregivers to have more confidence, less doubt, and less anxiety around the feeding experience altogether. So, what that combination looks like depends entirely on your family. It could be based off of your baby's mood or temperament, your energy level on a given day, your comfort with mess, your schedule, your culture's food traditions. A baby who's overwhelmed by big pieces of food, which is often where baby led weaning starts, might do beautifully with the preloaded spoon that they could bring to their mouth. Or a baby who resists being fed with a spoon might thrive with some finger foods on their tray. There is no correct answer. It's not a formula. We are people and we vary every single day. Your child and you are going to fluctuate. And so to give yourself that grace, that permission that it can look different is going to take off that pressure for everybody. So you don't need to just stake your flag into the ground and declare, right, that it has to be this way and it can't be this way. I want to release you from that. You are allowed to do both, and you're allowed to do things differently on different days. Okay? Now, I want to talk about something before I get into my three strategies, my three steps to help you determine what is the best fit when you're trying to introduce solids to your baby. But before I get into those three steps, I want to talk about a fact here. And it's something that it seems kind of obvious, but maybe we don't get enough warning or understanding about. And that is that babies are messy. It's a fact. It's not a failure on a parent's or caregiver's part. Babies at this stage are learning how to control their bodies and how to use their hands. They want to explore everything, and how they learn is through hands and mouth. That's literally how they are gathering all this information about the world around them. And we have the most sensory receptors on our fingertips and on our tongue, in our mouth. So here's the part that kind of catches parents off guard. Babies don't have impulse control yet. They don't pause and think and then act. They just react. So if they have a handful of banana on their hand and their head itches, they're going to scratch it. And now there's banana in their hair. And they don't care because it's not their job to care yet. That skill, that kind of pause and think about it, is still developing. It's not a behavior problem. It's not them being naughty or they're not listening. It's just development. So once you expect the mess, then it stops feeling like something is going wrong. It's not a sign that you picked the wrong method or you're doing this the wrong way. It's a sign that your baby is doing exactly what they're supposed to. Now, your comfort level is something we're going to talk about in just a little bit around mess and having some fluctuation and how to set that up so your baby can still have some of those learning moments, but not for you to feel like so worried and stressed out because you can't handle the mess. Okay. So let's get into some 3 steps here. With all of that, I have these 3 steps I walk through with families when they're trying to figure out how to approach starting solids with their child. Okay, step 1, purees. Purees are not the enemy, they are a bridge. Somewhere all along the lines with the growing popularity of baby led weaning approach, purees have gotten this reputation of a lesser option or something to just rush through and abandon as fast as possible because we have to get to like whole foods. And I want to push back on that just a little bit. Purees are not the enemy and they're not the only option. We don't need to live in either side of the spectrum again, where baby led weaning might say, like, anti puree, do not give your child purees. Or adult guided feeding is often heavily reliant on purees as the end all be all for getting food into your child. It's a bridge, okay? Think about it. We eat spoon foods as adults, soup, yogurt, ice cream. So, spoons are a part of our everyday eating experience, and we can have experience with spoon foods. It's perfectly fine and developmentally normal. And little babies don't know how to move their hand around to get it in their mouth. And so, to have spoon foods as part of their repertoire, like purees, is great. It's a additional learning step. It can be quite easy for their mouths to manage because it's just kind of middle of the mouth, close their mouth and swallow. And so there can be more consumption of that as they're learning and developing their mouth. So don't think about purees as something bad. And don't feel bad if in this moment purees is what the meal looks like because of time crunch or because of, I don't know, clothing or out and about at a restaurant or something. Sure, remember it can look different at different times. But also, either end, we're missing something. If we only rely on purees, we're going to be missing some more of that oral development and that self guided learning that comes more from a baby guided feeding approach. So, purees, step 1. Step 2 is really thinking about, where am I at right now? Ask yourself honestly, right now, in this time, are you looking for convenience for you, or for an opportunity of development for baby? And both answers are valid. There will be weeks when you are just so exhausted. Maybe you're going back to work, or sleep has been really off, or there's been sickness in the household. Who knows? All of these things are very, very likely and most often do happen to everybody with a baby. And so you might just be in, I need to get through this convenience mode right now. And so a quick spoon fed puree is what dinner is for your baby without a 40-minute cleanup and a giant bath time and food stuck to the ceiling. Yeah, there will be other days when you have the time, you have the patience and the energy to let your baby explore foods slowly on their own terms. They might not eat that much. It might be more outside of their body than inside their body. But if you are in that right mindset to let them have that learning moment, then you can give that to them. Naming where you're at of, I need to just have convenience and easy right now, or okay, I'm in a good place. We can have learning and messy right now. Instead of pretending that it always has to be this way, you just have to kind of like bottle up your frustration and you don't have any patience or energy, just take the guilt out of that. Allow it to be flexible. And step 3 is, what is your feeding focus? I just talked about a little bit about where am I at right now, but any given moment could be, is it consumption or is it learning? Every feeding moment can serve either one of those goals, sometimes both. If we have learning moments and it turns into consumption, great. But babies primarily are supposed to getting their majority calories through their milk or formula through 12 months old. And so whether they eat a lot of their foods or they don't, that's okay. They're still learning and they're going to get their food through their milk. And so practicing getting that experience is development and helping them to set them up for more and more practice. But it doesn't happen overnight. It needs to happen continuously, it needs to be consistent. And so having practicing skills, but maybe trying to get some swallows in there, a little of both is completely normal. And it's okay to balance that. It could be within the meal itself or kind of alternating meals, or maybe it's certain days. Weekends might look more free and open than a weekday. And so you don't need every meal to accomplish everything. Okay. You can just put in your head, what are we focusing on right now? The last thing I want to say is that eating is social. This is the most important thing that I want to say again. Eating is social. Children learn to eat largely through observation and imitation. They watch how you eat your food, what's on your plate, how you chew, how you react to foods, and they copy it. So, whatever side, or if you're in the middle of how you want to approach eating and supporting feeding for your child, for your baby with solid foods, remember, eating with your child or eating in front of your child is so important. Sit at the table, let them see you eating the same foods that you're offering them. Let them put food in your mouth. This is important. We are social beings. We learn through each other and especially through older people that are doing it that we can copy. So that's what I have for you today. Baby-led weaning or spoon feeding, basically child deciding or caregivers deciding, combination. There is no right or wrong answer here. Only the fit that works best for your family right now. There's bridges, check in where you're at, shift your focus of what are we trying to accomplish right now, and give yourself permission for it to be a little of both or for it to change day to day. That's totally fine. Just sit down and eat together. So I hope this episode was helpful. You can share it with another parent who's starting the process of thinking of introducing solids to their baby. And let me know your experiences and your questions for me to discuss here on the Airplane Spoon podcast. Remember, you're doing an amazing job supporting your child on their feeding journey. You've got this. Love, enjoy, and eat.